Thank you very much. What are you going to talk about, man? I don't want to step on you, step on your thing, man. But I vividly remember the day after Katrina, when the phone started ringing, and it was this network and that network and reporters, and I wouldn't speak to any of them. I wasn't answering the phone. And our manager, Anne-Marie Wilkins, who's sitting right over there, she loves being recognized, so that's why she hates it actually, which is why I do it. But she called me and she said, the press is looking for you, and what do you have to say? And I said, I really don't have anything to say. What are we going to do? And when you tell me what we're going to do, then I'll have something to say. And a few days later, Harry calls and says, look, I'm going into New Orleans if you want to go. I said, when? He says, in about 3 hours. So I threw everything in a bag and told my wife, who's sitting over there, Nicole, I said, I got to go. She goes, where are you going? I said, if I tell you, I have to kill you. No, I just said, I'm going to New Orleans, and we went to New Orleans, and Harry said we should drive to Houston, which is roughly 6.5 hours. And we should play for a lot of the evacuees who were stuck in the Astrodome, the old stadium in Houston. And it was on that ride when Harry and I started talking about what we can do. Harry said we should build a school. I said a school is crazy because a school would be subject to the laws and bylaws of the state of Louisiana and the education system there. Well, I don't have to tell y'all. That was a bad idea. And Harry just kind of said, I have this relationship with Habitat for Humanity. Maybe we could build some homes and start a music education center. And I said, man, that's a great idea. And we stayed up about a day and a half with no sleep. And I got back the next day and the phone rang and it was Anne-Marie saying, okay, so it's a go. Habitat called and you were flying you back to New Orleans. I said, wait a minute, we just had one conversation. It just took off like lightning. And it did. See, I told you I'm saying everything, bro. I didn't mean to, But I've never really felt that I actually earned this because I had a really bum shoulder and could only actually work on one home out of the 82 that were built because I had to have surgery and I was kind of out of commission for almost a year. But more importantly, even if I hadn't been hurt, there were tens of thousands of human beings around the world who sent donations and gave their time. One of my favorite memories of that time is it was a gentleman who was in the video. His name is Bob French. He was one of our elder statesmen in the eventual village, great drummer, and I was talking to him, and then I heard this marching band playing. I said, who the hell is that? He said, I don't know, man. There's all kind of crazy stuff going on around here since the storm. And it was a 3-block walk, and the entire marching band of the University of Maryland had come down and spent 6 days. And they would build homes basically from sunup to sundown. But at lunchtime, they'd take a break, and they'd have a 2-hour band rehearsal. And that was just the great metaphor for me about what was going on down there. And there were so many wonderful people who I will never get a chance to meet, and in a lot of ways this is more for them than it is for anything that we did. We just kind of pointed to a direction and said we need help, and the rest of it was just inertia. Thank you.
There were a lot of people that I could have called to accompany me on my trip to New Orleans the days following Hurricane Katrina. But Branford's the guy that I called because of his character. You see, we both have fathers that were pretty tough on us, and moms too, growing up. They had very, very high expectations for us, which makes it a novel feeling indeed to accept an award for an expectation. We're expected, as all of you in this room are, like that incredibly eloquent young woman who came up and spoke far more eloquently than I ever could. it's a calling. It's what you're supposed to do. I feel strange wearing this. Actually, I'm pretending it's a doubloon from Mardi Gras, which makes me feel a lot more comfortable. But to get an award for something that is expected of you feels a little strange, although it's perhaps the greatest honor that I've ever received. And I'm sure I can speak for Branford, too. It's humbling and disarming to accept it. I'll tell you a quick story. I went to a Catholic high school, and they always told you never talk about what you do with regard to charity. Don't talk about anything like that in public. Just do it, and you know, if there is some kind of reward, it'll be after you go to heaven if you're that lucky. But I have to tell you this for the payoff at the end. So I was doing a movie in New Orleans about 10 years ago, and every morning I would drive, and I would drive down Canal Street, and I would pass the Claiborne Avenue Bridge. Under that bridge, there were hundreds of homeless people that were living in boxes and makeshift tents. And I'd pass them every day, and it was really starting to get to me. So one morning, I got up about an hour earlier, and I went to McDonald's, and I said, I need, you know, 100 Egg McMuffins and, you know, 100 coffees, whatever I said, you know. So I put it in the back of the car. I drove under the Claiborne Bridge. Everybody was asleep. And I started nudging people. Here's a sandwich, you know. Here's a coffee. There were rats and roaches. It was despicable, you know, non-human-like living situation. But after I did it, I had this feeling of, I can't tell anyone about this. I can't even tell my wife, because that's not why I did it. I did it to give these people some food, you know. But no, please. So a couple of weeks passed, and I was talking to my dad, and my dad he's 86, and he still makes me feel like I'm about 7. Your dad still makes me feel like I hate that. When is that gonna stop? It's a terrible feeling. And I told my dad the story because I needed it. I needed him to say, son, what a fine young man you've turned out to be. So I told him the story. I said, you know, I'm handing out the sandwiches and the coffee. And I said, Dad, all of these homeless people just kind of looked at me. They weren't very appreciative. They weren't very thankful, which was fine. It was just sort of something to note that they weren't particularly appreciative. But I just wanted to let you know I did it, you know. And he said, yeah, I know. I said, what do you mean? He says, I know that the homeless people didn't really say thanks. I said, what are you talking about? He said, because they didn't thank me either when I dropped food off to them. And I realized that's why we do what we do. We don't do it for a reward. We don't do it for praise. We didn't do any, Anne-Marie Wilkins, who is the brain behind the Musicians Village, we do it because that's what we do. We are called in our lives to help people. This room is filled with people of that ilk, and it is a great honor to be among you tonight. Thank you so much for this incredible award. Thank you.